there, folks. Welcome back to Rule of Thumb. It has been a minute since I saw you all. It has been some interesting times as of late. We've been taking care of things here at home, getting acclimated to the new normal, dealing with quarantine and the whole 9 yards. We are both still working, so we've been keeping ourselves busy. We've also been stocking up, making sure our pantry is supplied, making sure that we have all the things that we need. It's been some interesting couple months. So I have been MIA because I needed to take care of things here at home, and also because I just wasn't inspired to make videos. I was more focused on taking care of the home. However, I have come across a book that I thought would be a really interesting share for Cookbook Corner, and I thought there was no better time than now to bring this to you, because the book is applicable to the times. So, this is the book we're going to talk about today. Put that up for you. It is Thrifty Cooking for Wartime by Alice B. Wynne Smith. Now, this book is available online. I'll try and put some links down below if I can find them. It's not in print, but there are copies out there. It's from 1942, so this was obviously written with World War II in mind. And what I find interesting about this book, I've spoken about the Betty Crocker cookbook. I'll link that video up here somewhere. Whenever somebody asks me for my recommendation for a cookbook for somebody who's learning to cook or wants the basics, it's always the Betty Crocker cookbook. I always have multiple copies of it on hand. I give them away as gifts. I pick them up at, thrift sales, estate sales, antique shops, wherever I see them. Typically, I will grab it. If it's in decent shape, I will grab it. I have multiple copies, multiple versions. I have 3-ring binded ones. I have spiral bound ones. I have book bound ones, hardcover, softcover. I love the book because it gives you kind of the base knowledge you need to learn to cook. And this book is very similar in that respect. It gives you the basics of learning how to cook. And I think what the idea, and I'm trying to put myself in the headspace of the author who wrote this book. I think what her thought was much like there is now, in talking with people, online, in, comments on my channel, different things like that. I think a lot of people are searching for knowledge that they weren't searching for before. In this day and age, a lot of people don't cook. A lot of people eat out. There was convenience foods, those type of things. And I think much the same existed at this time, in the sense that not everybody knew how to cook and how to cook frugally. So I think this was an answer to a calling for knowledge at the time. So, and in that same vein, people right now are looking for the knowledge of how to cook and how to start from scratch, because there are a fair amount of people that don't know. So what's interesting about this book is she writes a lot of basic recipes, and then she gives thrifty suggestions, she calls them, or thrifty changes. And so it takes a basic recipe and then gives you all of the methodology to expand on it. So I'm going to go through and kind of talk about how the book is broken up, and then we'll kind of go through and I'll give you some examples of how she did that in the book. So we'll go to the index first here. If I can find it. Maybe. Alright. So what we have is she has a little section on abbreviations and notes that she uses in the book. Thrifty ways for war days. And then it breaks into sections. So she has breakfast ideas to help the budget, cakes and cookies, desserts, eggs, fish, fowl, fruits and melons, meat dishes for victory dinners, meatless dishes for victory dinners, pastry and pies, quick biscuits and breads, raised bread, salads. And then there's one chapter, it's called Soup, the real all-out for defense meal. And then there's vegetables to finish it up. So let's get into I'm just going to read this first little in Thrifty Ways for War Days, how she starts it out. The first paragraph here, it says, "This collection of economical recipes with their numerous variations will be found helpful in many ways during the period of war conservation. The hundreds of thrifty ideas for the use of leftovers and other materials at hand will prove to be a real inspiration in your problems of cooking and meal planning." So that kind of gives you the idea of how this book was conceived and how it was written. So let's get into it here. I'm going to skip over I'm going to try and find something that is kind of generic and applicable here to show you the thrifty changes. So, carrot pudding. That might be interesting to try. Okay, so eggs. So, if you get in here, she has the basic recipe for one large omelet. And so she goes through the instructions on how to make an omelet. Then, following the base recipe, she has thrifty changes. And then it says, "There really is no end to the variations and thrifty ideas that this dish offers, but here are a few suggestions." And she goes into an asparagus omelet, a corn omelet, a jelly omelet, minced ham, tomato, onion, cheese. And then she has another section on how to make a bread omelet. So that's kind of, how she does it. So we'll go to chicken. So the chicken boiled or stewed. There's so many delicious ways to serve a boiling or stewing chicken. Chickens for this purpose are always the least expensive on the market, and if properly prepared, go farther in serving than the more expensive or choicer grades. So, excuse me, this is something that we don't necessarily think of today in terms of like a stewed chicken versus a roasting chicken versus I'm at a lack for the word here, like game fowl, that type of thing. So, because we as a society typically buy chicken in parts. We buy boneless, skinless chicken breasts, or chicken leg quarters, or chicken drumsticks. If you buy a whole chicken, you're typically buying it for the purpose of roasting it. We don't tend to break down a chicken like once was, you know. So this is a little, you know, gives you a little insight into the difference of 70 years ago. So thrifty changes, sliced onion adds flavor, savory chicken, pinch of thyme and a bay leaf, curried chicken, chicken with noodles, chicken with vegetables. She shows how to make a chicken pie. She talks about fried chicken, and she talks about jellied chicken, which is something probably most people nowadays would not eat or are not aware of, because it's a very different way of eating meat. Jellied meat lost popularity somewhere along the way, and we don't see it served like it once was. A meat cooked into a gelatin used to be a very common dinner entree. So let's see here. Fruits and melons. It's got applesauce, ambrosia salad. Okay, so here's a good one. Basic recipe for meatloaf. Okay, meatloaf made with chopped beef or hamburger, breadcrumbs, milk, egg, salt, pepper, and onion. Very basic meatloaf. I think meatloaf is probably one of the most classic American dishes, and you will rarely get two people that make it the same way. So that gives you the basic recipe, basic proportions. Then she goes into thrifty changes, and she says, finely chopped parsley, celery tops, pimento, chives, green onion tops, green pepper, or finely shredded carrots may be added. Savory flavors may be added with a little powdered sage, thyme, rosemary, sweet basil, or any of your favorite herbs. You could bake it in a ring mold, turn out and fill the center with vegetables or mashed potatoes, which I've had before. Or you can try baking individual loaves in muffin pans. You can turn it into a ham loaf by putting equal parts ground ham and ground beef, lamb loaf, pork loaf, sausage loaf. So, you know, that's the kind of thrifty guidance you're going to get in here. She goes into hamburger sauce for spaghetti, chili con carne, basic recipe for a pot roast. Light dumplings, veal, lamb, and pork, shoulder ham, corned beef and pork, hash, stews. So the stew is really interesting. A grand dish with unlimited opportunities for variety. Any of the less expensive cuts will do for this dish. Cuts from the shank, flank, rump, brisket, neck, or short ribs may be used. Cut the meat in small pieces, dredge with flour, brown in a frying pan or Dutch oven with some chopped suet, which drippings or fat. Add enough boiling water to cover the meat and salt and pepper. Simmer until the meat is tender. Sorry, that was my phone. Add the vegetables, cut into cubes in the last 30 minutes. Potatoes cut into cubes take only about 20 minutes. If you want to thicken the gravy, stir in a flour and water paste, cook 3 minutes longer. So it's really taking you through how to buy a roast and make a roast, which is one of the very basic principles of cooking. And then instead of thrifty on the bottom, she goes into, here are a few particularly good stew combinations. So she has like beef stew, she has whole onions, baby carrots, turnips, potatoes, and parsley. With lamb stew, she's got peas, celery, potatoes, onions, and rice. Veal stew, pork stew, ham stew. With the ham stew, she's got lima beans, carrots, onions. So that's just another way to add to your repertoire. Liver, which I do not do liver, so I would have to skip that section. But for people that like liver, or people that are really interested in cooking what they call tip to tail or snout to tail, this is, cooking with the liver, cooking with the heart, kidney. So it's teaching you how to use. So, I hope you folks enjoyed going through this book with me. I certainly enjoyed sharing it with you, and I hope it is helpful. I'm going to try and get more videos out for you guys as I get inspired to do different things. If you have something specific you're looking for, please leave it in the comment section below, and I will see if it's something that I can help with. But yeah, I'm glad to see you folks back. I'm glad to be back, and I hope everybody's happy, healthy, and safe. And as always, hope you had a great day.